Alright, so we got a little bit of a problem with this trackless vehicle. The air conditioning is getting a high pressure code and it's shutting down. So I'll try to show you what we're doing here. So here's a little control panel for the HVAC. Right now, air conditioning's pretty much working. Alright, so here's our problem. I don't know if you can read it. It says system high pressure. Press OK for more info. Push OK. System high pressure. You're not gonna read it. Anyways, 1 says clean condenser. 2 check condenser fan operation. And 3 high refrigerant. So this hasn't had any service or anything done to it for the refrigerant. It's been obviously working for however long, so that's not the problem, because it shouldn't be high. So this is our AC system. It's all up top here, and here's our condenser fan, and we're not getting any airflow with our condenser fan. So come back in here. This thing has onboard diagnostics, which is actually very nice. Touch on the board diagnostics and we'll go message center. So active messages: suspected open fuse FT5, low current on condenser fan. So we have some direction. Obviously the condenser fan isn't turning. So what was that, FT5? Alright, so let's find the FT5 fuse and see if we have a blown fuse. So this is part of the rest of the diagnostics. I mean, you get startup diagnostics. So let's try PTO. So you got all these things. So we're green everywhere. Just basically like a flow chart. So we're green, we got the safety seat, override off, and then we'll just kind of continue. So we hit this and right here, so you have to hit the PTO switch, and then that'll go green, and then we'll go PTO ready. So you can, it's actually really kind of neat if you ask me. I like how that's all integrated into that. Works out pretty good. So the motto to Trackless is that their machines are very serviceable, and they're created to be very serviceable. Like panels and stuff come off. It's pretty nice. These side panels come off with these little quick things. You just turn them and then latch. Take them all off, and this whole panel will come off and expose the whole side of the engine. Same thing in the back. So we got this panel on the side here that you can take off. It's just a little access panel, and then you can get it the majority of your hydraulics and your hydraulic controls and all your solenoid valves. I know there was a fuse box here, but I don't think so. This is an FA auxiliary fuse box, so this isn't the right one. So it's probably behind the seat. So we'll tuck that back together, and you don't need to be in here. So let me get a test light. Okay, so you got this other panel back here. You use kind of this little Silcock key that goes in there and you turn it. Just sits in there. So that forward. Panel off. This is FM. What was that, FT? Where's the FT fuse box? Alright, yeah, so this one's FM. So we must have another fuse box somewhere then. Unless it's one of these bigger fuses. Not exactly sure. I'll have to look in the manual. Let's see if I can find another fuse box. Alright, so we've got our other boxes. So it's a top fuse box. So you've got FT, top fuse box. All fuses starting with FT are in the top fuse box. In the upper panel there are 5 fuses. So it's got to be in that upper panel where the radio and the HVAC controller are. You have FA, fuse auxiliary, fuses starting with FA are in the fuse box located behind the side panel of the tractor, so that's the one that was on the outside I showed you. And then you have FM. FM fuses are main fuses. They're located behind the seat, which is the one right here I just showed you. And then you have FB, fuse breaker box. All fuses starting with FB are in the engine breaker box, located on the left side of the engine besides the battery disconnect switch. So that's over in the engine compartment. And quite a few fuse boxes. So let's see, FT for fuse top box, AC condenser fan. So let's look for that, obviously. There are 4 boxes located in the tractor. They are letter coded for which box is located, and to make locating the fuse easier, this is information referring to the fuse box charts on 71 to 73 of this manual. So alright, so let me get in the top box and try to find that fuse. Let's see where it is. Actually, you know what? I don't know if you can see, but it looks like, well, no, those are the plugs. I thought that was like fins for a grate, but those are actually plugs. So, all right, let me look for this guy. Okay, so I found the top box. So it's up on this upper panel. There was a screw right there, one on each side. Take them out, and then the whole thing just fell down. So there is my panel here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's this fuse here, 25 amp, which is a big fuse, and it is blown. So I looked in the manual that I have, and it looks like that only goes to the condenser fan. So I guess what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the condenser fan up on top, and I'm going to ohm check it, and I'm going to figure out if it's drawing over 25 amps, and then I'll know what direction to go. Okay, so we got all these little latches. So it's one of two things. We either have a chafed wire, or we have problem with the fan. So I guess I'll check the fan first. The wiring just comes out and it goes straight up through the roof. I didn't see any problems with it there. So let's check this first. I mean, I guess something, might have got a stick or something fall through and stop the blades and blew the fuse. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll give a bit of a check. Oops, it's kind of hard to get these things. .6. 0.45. It's 0.5 ohms. I'm gonna go with that. Is definitely blowing the fuse. So let's see. We've got E over I times R. So we've got the resistance, so we need 12, let's see, say 12 volts divided by 0.5 equals 24. So it's drawing 24 amps, which I don't believe that's, usually you don't set up a circuit so the fuse is for the maximum amount of amperage drawn. So it's 25 amp fuse. So let's say if it's running at 14 volts divided by 0.5, and that equals 28. So if you increase the voltage to 14 like it would be with the engine running, then it would be 28 amps. So I'm pretty confident that this is my problem. Alright, so I wanted to make sure that this fan was bad before I go and replace it, because I have been wrong before. So I used a 15 amp inline fuse and I ran it off this battery pack here, and the fan was running with a 15 amp fuse. So I thought, well, maybe I tested it wrong, and apparently I did. So now I've got it all hooked up how it should be, and this fan apparently has segments to it. I started thinking about it. I was like, well, maybe it doesn't have the same resistance in the same position. So obviously I believe there's different segments in the fan. I could be wrong, but that's what my interpretation is. And so I thought, well, let me rotate the fan and see if the resistance changes, and it does. So with it sitting in this position, it kind of, the way the magnets are set up, or the segments are set up, it's kind of like detents in that one position. See how it kind of goes back to that. So when it goes back to that, we have 0.6, 0.7 volts, or amps, or ohms, sorry. So when I take and I move the fan, you see how our resistance changes. So we're going up. That will obviously drastically change the amperage that we're drawing. So let's say, I think I had it at 2 at one point in time. It's very finicky, but 1.3. I mean, when you have measurements like that, you're only drawing like 10 amps. So let's say it's 1.2 at 12 volts. You're only drawing 10 amps. So that shouldn't have blown the fuse. And I was incorrect with my earlier diagnosis of the fan is bad, and that's just because I tested it wrong. If I had an amp clamp, I could have run it and then put the amp. I have an amp clamp, but I don't. The town doesn't have one, but I have one personally, and I don't have it here, so I can't really run an amp clamp on it, and I don't want to risk blowing the fuse and the meter over it. But I'm pretty sure as I get the resistance up, that it's hard to get it to do it, but so yeah, we were just about to. Anyway, so I don't think this fan is bad. So I looked all over. I checked the wiring. I traced it back. Unless we've got a problem with the controller, then I don't think it's a wiring issue. I will go and check it some more in the spots that I couldn't see. So I had these little pieces of stick that were in there and had gone through the fan and then into the condenser. So I'm wondering if an overhanging tree stuck in there and stopped the fan and then blew the fuse because the fan was stopped. I'm not exactly sure, but I will keep looking. I ended up putting a fuse back in, and I turned it on and it didn't blow the fuse, so kind of a little bit at a loss. Might have an intermittent problem, or like I say, it might have just been a stick or something got poked into the fan and just kind of stopped it. And because I imagine if you hold the fan still, you're going to overload and probably draw high amperage. So that's possibly a reason, but I'll keep looking. So that wiring is that little section right there, right in the center, and the wire comes up, goes straight up through the top, and it comes out right there by the motor, loops around here, down, and into the plug on the controller there. Then the wiring comes out of the controller, back, and then up this little wire right to the fan. I traced it all over. I didn't see any problems or any wear through spots. I do know this wire loam is actually very durable. I've actually seen it wear through the metal parts before it actually wore through the loam. It's quite incredible. But anyway, so I didn't see any rub through spots. I didn't see any problems or any problem areas. So I'm going to put the fan back in and replace the fuse, and I'm going to run it like that and see what happens before I start replacing parts. I think, as I think about it, I think maybe, like I say, a stick or something got stuck in the fan and probably caused the higher current draw and blew the fuse. But we might have a chafe somewhere that's not showing itself to me just yet. But so I'm gonna go with that and see how that goes for now. And if it blows a fuse again, I'll look a little deeper and I'll bring in an amp clamp or something and check the draw. But being that was running off of a 15 amp fuse, like I say, that fuse only feeds the fan, and the only place it goes from the fuse into the controller and then out of the controller into the fan. So if it's not rubbed through and it's not the controller and it's not the fan, I mean, obviously it'd have to be one of them, or like I say, some type of outside source, maybe stopping the fan. But anyway, so I'm gonna put this back together and see how it goes. But you can kind of see this. I don't know if I showed it earlier, but this is all, there's the blower. It's pretty much all self-contained right up on the top. Pretty easy to work on. I mean, unless you need a new hose to your air conditioning compressor, then that'd be kind of a chore. So like I say, that runs from here all the way over to there. anyway, so I'll put this back together. It just has these little clips to hold it down. They're running, kind of wiggling the wires and stuff around, and it's not blowing any of the fuses, and panel's staying clear. So yeah, I guess it was just a fuse, but this time will tell if it was just a fuse. So I'll put this back up, wrap it up, and send it back out, see what happens.